South Africa is being sold to China.
South African government just borrowed another $1 billion from the BRICS Bank.
How does being a BRICS member benefit us as South Africans?
Right now, a lot of people are talking about a new BRICS currency as if it is already here and about to flip South Africa's banks upside down overnight.
And if you didn't know, the dollar is backed by nothing. But the BRICS currency is backed by gold. We will be signing several agreements with the president of China. What is China investing in South Africa?
Can you simplify the currency? So what's going on? Are we having a new currency? What's going on with that?
So money is very crucial. And in the 1970s, basically America basically said our money will not be pegged to a substance like gold, right? We're just going to go off vibes. So American dollars are vibes. It's based off branding, right? It's actually a brand because they say our military power, our interests across the globe, etc., allow them to print this money. And that's why BRICS said, why do we have to trade with each other in a currency that we both don't own? Why do we have to use that guy's money to buy things between the two of us? When oil, mina mali, I've got money of my own. So that's where currency became a necessity, right? So that's why the BRICS guys said, we must have an alternative. Listen to this. We're not fighting what you have. We are saying there must be an alternative. And that's where the currency conversation is coming. And also, we want to finance our own things in our own currency, where the interest rate, we don't have to pay in your currency, which you deem to be more valuable than ours.
As a South African journalist watching this closely, I can tell you the real story is quieter, more complicated, and in some ways more serious. The banks are not panicking about a shiny new note with 5 flags on it. They are worried about something deeper. Who will control the pipes that move money across borders? That is what we need to unpack today. Scroll through social media and you will hear the same claims. BRICS is launching a currency, the dollar is finished, South African banks are terrified.
I don't know who needs to hear this. Wake up! Wake up! What is going on? I'm not understanding how we could be going through, potentially, a crisis, like a serious crisis, where the BRICS nation is combining their money together to devalue the American dollar. Which means that if we wanted to buy something over in these countries, whether it's Brazil, Russia, China, India, South Africa, if we was to go over there and try to purchase something for $1, guess how much we're going to have to give them? $55 to their $1. Do you not understand what is going to happen to our economy if that happens? We were just sitting here complaining about eggs $10. Can you imagine how much we're going to have to pay now? If we went to one of these countries and wanted to buy $20, 20 of their dollars worth of goods, do you know how much we're going to have to pay? That's $1,100 for a $20 item. So in layman's terms, that basically means, listen, these countries not messing with the U.S. no more. They're not trading the way that they used to trade. They don't care about nothing. They flip that coin. They're like, we not having it no more. So now we're subjected to inflation like crazy. Our rent. We talking about rent now? We're not going to be able to afford rent. Food, forget about it.
Some voices say this is liberation from Western control. Others say it will collapse our economy. The noise is loud. The truth is quieter.
Because word on the street is South Africa is being sold to China. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, but let's get into what BRICS is all about. So BRICS is 5 countries that have joined together. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Just these 5 countries make up 40% of the world's population. That's over 3.2 billion people on Earth just in these 5 countries. That's over 27.5% of the world's GDP. It's worth mentioning that South Africa only joined BRICS in 2010. My question is why? Our government is corrupt to the core. Unemployment is through the roof. Crime is through the roof. We don't even have water and electricity. So why South Africa? In my opinion, I think it's because of our resources. South Africa is one of the richest countries in the world. Just look at our tourism. We've got ocean life, we've got animals, agriculture, mining, not to mention our natural resources in the ground, gold, platinum, silver, diamonds. We have it all, and yet our people suffer. It's been said that over 40 countries will join BRICS once the summit is over. So why is America scared? So the US dollar right now is the world reserve currency, which basically means that every single country all around the world that wants to trade with one another needs to hold dollars. And if you didn't know, the dollar is backed by nothing. But the BRICS currency is backed by gold. This is one of the things that, number one, is going to make it worth a lot more. I'm sure you've seen the predictions where they're saying one BRICS will equate to $55. Now you can understand why America's a bit scared. It will literally be the biggest transfer of wealth we have ever seen. So once the dollar is dethroned, and best believe it's going to be dethroned because most of Africa has already sided with BRICS. So this will increase strategic relationships between the different countries, allowing us as well as all the BRICS nations to trade amongst ourselves using a currency backed by gold, giving it much more value than the US dollar. If you do a quick Google search, it says, being a BRICS member has created a positive opportunity for South Africa. It has enabled our country to have a strategic relationship with China, and based on the strategic relationship between South Africa and the People's Republic of China, we will be signing several agreements with the President of China. What is China investing in South Africa? Let me read it for you. Chinese investors have been steadily building their direct and indirect investments in South Africa during the last decade. And it's not just in mining and minerals. There have also been districts moved to sectors such as manufacturing, banking, textiles, property, and agriculture. So with China investing in South Africa, does that mean it's loans, investments that South Africa needs to pay back? What if South Africa can't afford to pay that money back? Does South Africa then belong to China? With our corrupt government, we can't put it past them to not pay China back. So, I will leave it with you. Do you think South Africa is being sold?
Let me be straight with you. As of now, mid-2026, there is still no full common BRICS currency in circulation. Official South African statements have been clear. The focus is not on creating one new currency that replaces the rand. The real work is on alternative payment systems, local currency trade, and reducing dependence on the US dollar and SWIFT. That distinction matters. When people say BRICS currency, what is actually moving is the plumbing underneath. Systems like BRICS Pay, central bank, digital currency links, and banks finding ways to settle trade without going through the dollar every single time. So why the unease inside traditional South African banks? Because for decades, they have sat in a comfortable position. Most international payments involving South Africa still run through the SWIFT system and dollar correspondent banking. That system generates fees, gives them control as intermediaries, and keeps them central to regional trade. A serious shift toward local currency settlement or Chinese systems like CIPS changes that. One of our biggest banks, Standard Bank, has already plugged into China's CIPS and expanded renminbi clearing across several African countries. That is not panic, that is adaptation. But for the broader banking sector, the fear is real. Loss of fee income, loss of intermediary power, and the risk that if they move too slowly, someone else will take the business. There is also the quieter fear of Western secondary sanctions. South Africa remains deeply tied to the dollar system. Moving too aggressively toward alternative rails could invite pressure. Banks do not like uncertainty that can freeze their access to global markets. Now, connect this to something we already feel every day: the brain drain. Skilled South Africans are leaving. Engineers, IT specialists, doctors, financial professionals. Economic uncertainty is one of the big push factors. When people hear talk of currency upheaval, banking instability, or South Africa getting caught between Western and BRICS systems, it adds to the sense that the ground is shifting. Professionals who can leave often do. That loss of skills makes the economy weaker, which in turn makes the banking system more fragile. It becomes a cycle. The fear inside the banks and the fear that drives people to pack their bags are linked. Look at the region. Some neighboring African countries are becoming more critical of South Africa's dominance. Trade relationships are under pressure. If alternative payment systems take root faster in other parts of the continent, SA banks risk losing their role as the natural gateway. A multipolar payment system could actually help African countries trade with each other more cheaply. But if South Africa is slow or hesitant, we could find ourselves on the outside of new corridors. That is another reason the banks are watching carefully. They do not want to wake up and discover that the center of African financial traffic has shifted. Who wins and who loses? The banks that adapt early, like those already linking into new systems, can position themselves as the bridge. The ones that cling only to the old SWIFT model risk becoming less relevant. Ordinary South Africans win if transaction costs drop and trade becomes smoother. We lose if uncertainty drives more capital and skills out of the country. The new development bank has been extending loans in local currencies and funding infrastructure here. That is practical cooperation. But practical cooperation still has to sit inside a banking system that is ready for it. Here is my honest view as a South African journalist. I am proud of the sophistication of our banking system. It is one of the things that still works relatively well in this country, but pride cannot become denial. The world is building alternative rails whether we like it or not. Pretending the only choice is the old dollar SWIFT system is not strategy. It is comfort. At the same time, rushing into something just because it is labeled BRICS without protecting our own interests would be reckless. The real test is whether our banks and our policymakers can move with clear eyes, reduce unnecessary dependence, keep access to global markets, and make sure South Africa remains a relevant financial center for the continent. Right now, I see selective adaptation from some players and hesitation from others. That gap is dangerous. What comes next? More local currency trade experiments? More pressure on banks to offer alternatives? More competition from systems that do not need the dollar as a middleman? The rand will still be our currency. The real question is how many of our international transactions will still need to pass through the old pipes. If we prepare properly, this can be managed. If we treat every new development as either salvation or catastrophe, we will keep losing skilled people and falling behind. So the truth is this. South African banks are not primarily afraid of a new BRICS banknote. They are afraid of losing control of the systems that currently make them central. That fear is rational. Ignoring it is not. We need realism, not slogans. We need banks that adapt without gambling the country's access to the world. And we need an economy stable enough that our skilled people choose to stay. That is the conversation we should be having. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think our banks are moving too slowly, or are they right to be cautious? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this helped cut through the noise, like the video, share it, and subscribe for more straight talk on what is actually happening in South Africa. We will keep watching the real moves Not just the headlines.
American economic decline faster than any military defeat or diplomatic humiliation. South Africa has launched the BRICS common currency while simultaneously signing a $300 billion trade agreement that abandons dollar-based commerce across the African continent. Not pilot programs or gradual transitions, but immediate implementation of alternative monetary systems that eliminate American financial control over Africa's $2.6 trillion economy. For the first time since decolonization, Africa operates under monetary...
South African government just borrowed another $1 billion from the BRICS Bank. And the question is this economic progress, or are we digging ourselves deeper into debt? The new development bank, also known as the BRICS Bank, has just approved another $1 billion to support infrastructure and municipal development projects in South Africa. Apparently, the goal is to improve service delivery and also enhance or upgrade critical infrastructure. On the positive side, though, better infrastructure can boost economic growth, create jobs, and improve water systems, roads, and municipal services. These are investments that South Africa desperately needs. But here's the challenge. South Africa's government debt is already approaching 80% to the GDP. Every new loan means future repayments and future interest costs, and more pressure on taxpayers if money is not invested properly, as it is sometimes the case. The issue is not whether South Africa borrows money. The issue is whether that money generates more economic value than the cost of debt. If the projects creates growth, jobs, and revenue, it's an investment. If not, it's just another bill for future generations. What do you guys think? Is the BRICS Bank helping South Africa build its future, or are we becoming too dependent on borrowing? Let's know in the comment section below.